So by not thinking long-term and preparing for the fact that we were moving to a world economy and there was no way to turn back, in moving toward that world economy, it's obvious that we're going to lose the low-paying jobs. These nations, my gosh, recently when Egypt had all the turmoil, food prices went up and they were resisting. You know, the figure that hit me, those people, the mass of people were earning $3 to $4 a day. No wonder they're concerned about it. And where rulers and people at the top that made money off of oil, that money in the region hasn't gone down to the people as a whole. So it's kept us from preparing for the long-term future in which we move in the fields that we have to move, leading from math and science, which are the things that people shy away from. You all have it. The majority of our students in this country have. They've taken the softer, easier subjects. And the net result is we've depended upon people from China, Asia, and India and other places. And with the events in the world, and with their economies recovering, we're not going to be having them here for one reason or another in the future. We need to create jobs at the high end so that gradually, if we were less dependent on importing oil, we would be prepared to produce at the high end with innovation, technology, engineering, healthcare, biotech technologies. Those things can keep us with a good economy, a sound economy, and gradually, over thinking longer term, 50, 60, 70 years, hopefully these countries will gradually narrow the gap in, and the whole world will be a better place. Now that's pretty idealistic, I realize, but that's the possibility. But we really haven't prepared for that, and now we don't blame ourselves for what's happened, we blame China for what? Well, everybody thinks that China's going to end up overtaking us too, believe me. They've got 900 million people still left behind. They don't have the natural resources, the whole that we have, and they don't have the climate for growing food that we have, and they still have corruption beyond belief, and a directed society that worked up to a point that won't be creative in the long run. So there's no guarantee anymore that when Japan was thought to overtake us 20, 30 years ago, there's no guarantee that China's going to dominate us and hurt us. We will only be hurt if we hurt ourselves. Before Obama's election, remember hope and change? What did the people in this country naively think about because they were thinking short term? They wanted cheap gasoline, number one, and they wanted us out of the Middle East, number two. The two were diametrically opposed. How can we have both without long-term planning and preparing for it? More recently, our President Obama, after backing loans to Brazil to drill oil wells off the coast of Brazil, has turned around and in fact when he went down there told them, we'll be your best customer. Gosh, we need to keep jobs here strong first, and then we can basically support the services, support the culture, and save ourselves from going into gradual decline. What are the solutions to all this? The wonderful thing about it is now, I used to give a speech predicting all this. I can't do that anymore because it's happening, a joke. But there are things that are good. We're talking about our problems now. We're starting to recognize them at every level. And that's a positive, a real positive. Doesn't mean we got the solution, but we're talking. The Deficit Reduction Committee reported back to President Obama, and it's been pretty much ignored. The Gang of Six in the Senate has been trying to work with some compromise solutions. Right now, temporarily, it's down to a gang of five, but still, Congressman Ryan has come up with a plan. At least it's an alternative to start talking about. And Paul Volcker, who was head of the Federal Reserve back in the early 80s and met with a deep crisis at that time, I happened to be working in the National AGC at that time as on the Tax and Fiscal Affairs Committee, which I later chaired. And I got to know him, and he basically stood beside Obama, predicted and said that we needed a value-added tax. I'll get into that in a bit. So here we have the Republican and the Tea Party recommending that we just cut inefficiency and cut waste out of our government, and that can solve the problem. We can keep taxes where they are. We have an awful lot of waste and an awful lot of misdirection and a lot of things we could do better. There's no question about that. But I don't think if you really look at the needs for all the programs we've got out into the future for health care, Social Security, retirement money, and all the other things, most honest people will say we've got a problem out there that we haven't dealt with. So I don't think we can cut enough, as Republicans predict, to solve our problems. The Democrats and the liberals want to tax the rich to do it. Unfortunately, you can't do that either. I think you should have a progressive tax against people that are wealthy, because you don't want a society that gets so skewed that you have super rich and super poor. And certainly the things that are happening are creating a wider gap today. And we need to try to protect it. So we should keep a progressive tax. But that tax cannot, I'll say, you all heard of the Laffer curve. Maybe some of you have not. The Laffer curve basically is very simple. It says if you tax people 100%, you get nothing in taxes. If you tax zero, you get nothing. Somewhere in the middle, you find the positive that basically with a combination of regulations, taxes, and estate taxes, which incidentally are quite high in this country, 55%, they were trying to take them higher. You basically can destroy incentive if you go too high, but you need to find that middle ground. You can still keep the donkey pulling the cart to create the jobs for the rest of us. And that balance is what we're going to have between the two extremes that we have today, at the state level and at the federal level. Every society, as long as I can read history, has had a thing shade the coin. That meant devaluing their currency, because they've never been able to tax their societies enough to pay for all that they needed to keep them happy. So a little devaluation, shading the coin, is part of the program. You might be surprised to know that by my nature, and I can back this up from talks, the dollar today is worth about 7 cents on the dollar compared to what it was 50 years ago when I started my career 50-some years ago. It was slow enough. The only time it was fast was in the end of the 70s and early 80s. The rest of the time it's been rather moderate. But that's the law of geometric progressions. You take a small amount, and that's your math and science, engineering again. So devaluation is going to be part of it. But it can't be so much that we just shoot our interest rates way high. We won't be able to cover that. It'll destroy the economy. So I think that basically, in order to have the funds that we're going to need for education, which is essential, good education, opportunity for upward mobility, for our people that have the capabilities in our society, such as our Central Valley of California, and again, the Tale of Two Cities, Mayor Dan Whitehurst, 30 or 40 years ago, coined for president. Again, back to the novel. That 1/3 of wealth, 2/3 of poverty left behind. I coined the term Central Valley Appalachia at that time, from Bakersfield to Stockton. Great wealth, tremendous poverty. That's the reason an engineering school needs to be here in this area, to have a chance for upward mobility for the kids in this valley. They can afford to go off somewhere else to school. I think that basically for health care, for an advanced society, and for retirement money, much of which has been lost or hurt or overstated and isn't really there, and education, those three things. All the three things I said above, I don't think are going to be enough. It's going to take a lot of everything. And I think we're going to have probably as much as a progressive tax on the poor. We need to have, 47% of our society pays no taxes now, just get handouts. And many of them are out there double dipping on a cash society that they don't pay taxes either. We've got a lot of things going on that are not really very productive. So I think everybody needs to have a stake in the game. And a value-added tax, most of the rest of the world has it. It's added on incrementally. You can keep it lower. Yes, it's regressive. Republicans don't like it because it allows bigger government. But I think we're to the point we have to do all of these things. And the added value of it, instead of devaluing our currency to get exports, it really is hurting some of the imports since we're importing so much more than we're exporting. And it's really one of the reasons for, well, anyway, it's counterproductive. And putting this value-added tax is added on, taken off, when you export, and added on to imports. So in effect, it will help us here, and it will help to cover the gap that we have. Dr. Welding has done so many things here in the years since he came here, in leadership in the community, to try to change the Central Valley Appalachian, this tale of two cities we have. He pushed innovation and entrepreneurship a few years ago. The water technology program that he pushed. Regional jobs that he's reaching out in the community in many areas that he's worked on. But none of those that make it in the long run unless we have, again, good engineering. And that's what we need to do. You engineers, with the training you have, are uniquely qualified and will have a better chance, even though times are tough now, short term, long term, you're in the warm spot, the hot spot, the needs of what's going to be needed to help save this country, along with healthcare and the other things I mentioned, the legal science and math. We need water in priority in this valley and in the country. We've got plenty of water. It's a matter of investing in the infrastructure, and we can solve those problems. Our energy problems are easy as long as we don't want to pay somebody else to import it. Let them have the jobs and let them have the money, and then create subsidies that drive businesses out of the state. So, you engineers thinking of the definition of good engineering, thinking of what we need to do in our society long term instead of short time, I think are uniquely situated with your education to reach out in the community and learn and continue to use. This is the base for your learning for the future. Continue to learn. Understand the economics of our society. Understand what's going on. Actually, economics is nothing but just normal reaction to human nature. All these formulas they come up work for a while, but it's just predicting human nature. Human nature repeats itself over and over again. So get out in the community, involve yourself in the community. In my generation, I think we've created a lousy opportunity for you all in the future. We've benefited from it greatly, but we haven't really planned long term. We've elected politicians on both sides who gave us what we wanted short term instead of giving us leadership to think long term. And you, in your generation, you've got to get out. Hopefully, it's your future. And I challenge you to get involved and help turn this country around and restore it before it goes down. It's too late. Means to do it, come back and help others who need your support. And I'm going to keep pressure on the university to put money and redistribute it so that this program can do the job, because this, along with some others like this, are what the country's going to need to go ahead and save itself. I know I went over a little bit at time, but I just felt compelled to tell you something, that there is a future. We don't have to be over. We can do something about it.